Shedeur made a pretty impressive run at it, to be honest. I think that he's probably played a little better than their expectations, I would say.
I thought I was going to get, a little different response. But, I think, my emotions got the best of me. And, my comments wasn't intending to go at any of the fans around in the city.
Like we've spoken about many a times, it seemed that old Todd Monken could not get over the $240 million elephant in the room.
The moment the announcement went public, the reaction outside team headquarters was not just disappointment, it was open revolt. Fans were literally circling the Browns training facility in their vehicles, leaning out of their windows and screaming in sheer frustration. Todd Monken stepped in front of the cameras and named Deshaun Watson the starting quarterback over Shedeur Sanders, claiming it was based on the full body of work. But almost nobody who watched every snap of training camp believes that explanation. National analysts, team insiders, and the film itself all tell a completely different story. Shedeur was sharper, faster through his reads, and controlled the line of scrimmage, while Watson looked hesitant, erratic, and burdened by the pressure of living up to the largest guaranteed deal in league history. This decision was never about who played better football between the white lines. It was about protecting a massive investment that the front office simply cannot afford to write off. Before we break down the film, the backroom coaching dynamics, and the off-field chaos pulling this franchise apart, I want your honest reaction right now. Type one single word in the comments, money or merit. Let us see who truly understands what is happening in Cleveland.
Before moving further, if you've enjoying this video, consider hitting subscribe. We're pushing toward 2,000 subscribers, and every single one makes a difference. Help us reach more football fans and take this community to the next level.
Here at Browns training facility, fans are driving by and yelling in frustration. The Deshaun Watson Foundation raised $500,000 last year and only gave out about $85,000. The rest stayed with the foundation's bank account. Bro is a fraud in every aspect of life.
The atmosphere around the Cleveland Browns facility in Berea transformed the second the depth chart became official. Usually, when a head coach announces his starting quarterback heading into week 1, it brings clarity, focus, and a sense of unity to the building. Instead, it triggered an immediate public relations disaster that spilled out into the streets. Fans did not just vent on social media. They got into their cars, drove down Lou Groza Boulevard, and shouted their disbelief at the facility gates. That kind of raw, visceral anger before a single regular season snap has even been taken is almost unprecedented in modern football. It shows a complete disconnect between the decision makers on the inside and the community that invests its heart and soul into the team every Sunday.
Deshaun is going to start against Jacksonville. Took in the full body of work over the course of off-season to training camp, to the games, the joint practice, and ultimately felt like to start the season on the road, Deshaun gave us the best chance to move the ball and score points. I mean, where he was at, where he's at now, where he wants to get to. That is what's so awesome about Shedeur understanding that. Really, he does. We met this morning for a good long time, and all he had was a smile on his face.
Todd Monken tried to deliver the news with the calm, measured tone of an experienced coach. He stood at the podium and stated that he evaluated the entire process, from spring installations to training camp practices, joint scrimmages, and preseason games. According to his official statement, Watson gave the offense the best chance to move the chains, generate explosive plays, and score points against Jacksonville. But the problem with coach speak is that it only works when the public has not seen the evidence with their own eyes. For over a month, thousands of fans and dozens of credentialed reporters watched every single open practice. They saw the repetitions, they tracked the completion percentages, and they witnessed how the offense operated under both quarterbacks. The consensus was overwhelming. There was no noticeable gap in Watson's favor, and on many days, the younger quarterback looked far more decisive. What made the situation even more explosive was the contrast in how both players handled the outcome. When Shedeur Sanders was informed of the coaching staff's decision during their morning meeting, there was no public outburst, no passive-aggressive social media post, and no locker room complaining. Team sources noted that he simply smiled, thanked the staff, and went right back to work in the weight room. That quiet confidence stood in stark contrast to Watson's subsequent media appearance. When Watson stepped up to the microphone, he did not project the energy of a veteran leader who had just won an intense, hard-fought competition. He sounded like a player fully aware of the skepticism surrounding him, immediately shifting into defensive mode to address the boos he received from his own home crowd during camp.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
National sports networks immediately picked up on the disconnect. Pundits who normally defend established veterans over second-year quarterbacks openly questioned the logic of Monken's depth chart. Sports business commentators pointed out that this looked less like a football evaluation and more like corporate asset management. The Browns found themselves in a position where confirming their highly paid veteran as the starter actually decreased confidence across the entire fan base. Instead of generating momentum for the season opener, the announcement cast a dark cloud over the entire roster. The coaching staff wanted to project stability, but by ignoring what everyone saw on the practice field, they created an environment where Watson will take the field with zero room for error. The first incomplete pass or turnover in Week 1 will not just bring routine groans from the stands. It will ignite a stadium-wide demand for the backup, proving that this controversy is only just beginning. To understand why this quarterback decision unfolded the way it did, you have to follow the money, because the financial reality dictates everything inside that front office. When the Browns traded a haul of premium draft capital and handed Deshaun Watson a 5-year, $230 million fully guaranteed contract, they altered the trajectory of the franchise for a decade. In the National Football League, money is not just compensation. It represents status, job security for executives, and an organizational commitment that cannot simply be wiped away. When a contract carries complete guarantees, there is no escape hatch, no easy contract restructuring that erases the dead money, and no painless way to admit that the investment has failed to yield the expected returns. Front offices operate under immense pressure from ownership to justify massive expenditures. If a general manager invests a record-breaking sum into a franchise cornerstone, and that player ends up sitting on the bench behind a low-cost, second-year signal caller, it sends shockwaves through the executive suite. It is an open admission to the owner, the league, and the corporate partners that a catastrophic miscalculation took place. Because of that dynamic, teams often fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy. They convince themselves that if they just give the veteran one more week, one more scheme adjustment, or one more set of weapons, the elite version of that player will miraculously reappear. That hope often blinds organizations to what is happening right in front of them during live action. When you contrast Watson's financial footprint with Shedeur Sanders, the business dilemma becomes glaringly obvious. Sanders represents a modern, highly mobile, and cost-effective quarterback option, whose rookie-scale deal allows a front office to load up the rest of the roster with elite talent. Yet, the presence of that massive veteran guarantee creates an artificial barrier. Football purists like to believe that depth charts are pure meritocracies, where the best 11 players take the field regardless of their background or bank account. But anyone who has spent time around professional sports knows that executive self-preservation plays a massive role in personnel decisions. Benching a player earning nearly $50 million a year creates national headlines and calls for front office dismissals, whereas starting him allows executives to maintain the illusion that their long-term plan is still intact. Social media platforms and sports finance, analysts tore into the Browns' front office immediately following Monken's press conference. People highlighted the reality that if Watson had arrived on a standard incentive-laden deal with minimal guarantees, this training camp battle would have concluded with Sanders running out of the tunnel as QB1. The fan base feels the weight of that financial anchor more than anyone else. They watch other franchises pivot quickly when a quarterback experiment fails, yet they see their own team handcuffed by numbers on a spreadsheet. That financial tension now hangs over every single offensive possession. The organization is betting everything on the hope that Watson can justify the historic investment. But if the on-field execution continues to stall, the pressure to cut their losses will reach an undeniable breaking point that no guaranteed dollar amount can quiet. When you peel back the press conferences, the financial debates, and the media noise, the ultimate truth of any quarterback competition lives on the game film. Throughout training camp and preseason action, observers who analyzed the tape without emotional bias noticed a striking contrast in how the offense operated under both players. The coaching staff had laid out specific evaluation criteria heading into the summer: operational rhythm, cadence command, pocket management, and red zone efficiency. Watson was supposed to hold a commanding advantage in these areas simply due to his 9 years of professional experience and extensive knowledge of advanced defensive structures. However, when the lights turned on, those expectations were completely flipped upside down. In live preseason action, Watson's operational command looked surprisingly disjointed. Despite his years in the league, the veteran quarterback was responsible for multiple false start penalties and delay of game warnings, signaling hesitation in his pre-snap communication. Against opposing backup defenders, Watson often held onto the ball far too long, drifting into pressure rather than stepping up into clean pockets. His throwing mechanics appeared inconsistent, resulting in passes that sailed over open receivers or fell short on basic intermediate crossing routes. Longtime beat reporters who stood on the sidelines during every single open session pointed out that Watson routinely struggled with his timing, frequently looking off his primary read only to force contested throws into crowded coverage windows. On the other side of the field, Shedeur Sanders displayed a level of poise that caught opposing coaching staffs off guard. Sanders consistently manipulated defensive fronts using varied snap cadences, drawing veteran defensive linemen into neutral zone infractions and creating free plays for the offense. His dropbacks were crisp, his footwork in the pocket was remarkably quiet, and his ability to deliver accurately off-platform showed the natural passing traits of a modern starter. Scott Petrak, a seasoned beat writer who has covered the Browns for years and evaluates practices with strict objectivity, publicly stated that there was virtually no noticeable gap between the two quarterbacks throughout camp, and if an edge existed in pure passing accuracy and arm talent, it belonged to Shedeur Sanders. The analytics and film breakdowns supported the visual evidence. Sanders consistently got the ball out of his hands in under 2.5 seconds, demonstrating a clear understanding of where his hot reads were located against blitz packages. Watson, meanwhile, continued to rely on out-of-structure improvisation that frequently broke down when opposing defenses maintained disciplined lane integrity.
Before going further, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. It really helps us keep bringing you the content you love. Share this video with your friends so they don't miss out on all the drama and excitement.
When a second-year quarterback demonstrates superior pre-snap execution and quicker post-snap processing than a multi-year veteran, it destroys the coaching staff's narrative about leaning on experience. The film clearly revealed that Sanders was not just competing. He was executing the modern nuances of the position at a higher level, making the final depth chart decision look increasingly disconnected from pure on-field performance. As the football world searched for answers regarding why the depth chart did not match the tape, an intriguing perspective began circulating among advanced sports analysts and league insiders. A prominent voice in Cleveland sports analytics raised a theory that rapidly gained traction across national coverage. The decision to name Deshaun Watson the starting quarterback was never truly influenced by this summer's training camp battles. Instead, evidence suggests the depth chart was effectively locked in during the head coaching search itself, long before players even reported for voluntary spring workouts. During the off-season hiring cycle, several highly regarded young offensive coordinators and head coaching candidates were linked to the open Cleveland job. However, multiple prospective candidates reportedly withdrew their names from consideration or pivoted toward other opportunities across the league. Reports and whispers from league circles suggest that one central question dominated the interview process. Were prospective coaches fully committed to building the offense around Watson, starting him from day one, and navigating the intense public pressure that came with that mandate? For innovative young play callers looking to establish their own long-term culture, tying their professional reputation to an unpredictable veteran quarterback represented an enormous risk. Todd Monken, an experienced and battle-tested offensive architect with national championship credentials, ultimately accepted the position. Monken brought a proven scheme and a history of maximizing quarterback talent, but accepting the role meant acknowledging the organizational commitment to Watson. If starting Watson was an unwritten prerequisite for taking the job, then the idea of an open, unbiased quarterback competition during August was merely an exercise in public relations. The joint practices, the rotational reps, and the preseason series were designed to give the illusion of a merit-based battle, even though the front office had already decided who would walk onto the field for the season opener. This dynamic completely changes how you view Shedeur Sanders' training camp journey. Despite delivering high-level performances on a daily basis, Sanders was playing against a predetermined outcome that had nothing to do with his completion percentage or operational command. He was competing against a contract and an executive mandate that Monken had agreed to manage when he signed his coaching paperwork. When a team operates under those conditions, true competition disappears, replaced by a predetermined corporate hierarchy. That theory explains why the coaching staff continued to defend Watson's body of work despite clear struggles, highlighting an internal alignment between the front office and the coaching staff that prioritizes organizational strategy over the reality of the practice field. The fallout from the quarterback decision quickly exposed deep fractures between Deshaun Watson and the fan base he is supposed to lead. In most NFL cities, fans rally behind their starting quarterback through thick and thin, creating a hostile home field advantage that opposing teams dread. But in Cleveland, the dynamic has deteriorated into a tense, volatile relationship that was on full display during open camp sessions. When Watson struggled with basic red zone sets and threw errant passes during team drills, portions of the crowd let their frustrations be heard with audible boos and groans from the bleachers. Rather than brushing off the criticism with veteran composure or taking personal accountability for the sluggish offensive execution, Watson's post-practice comments only poured fuel onto the fire. When questioned by the media about the hostile crowd reaction, Watson admitted that his emotions got the best of him and insisted he did not intend his reactions to go at the city or the local supporters. But the mere fact that a starting quarterback had to spend his media availability doing damage control regarding his relationship with home fans revealed just how fragile the situation had become. A starting quarterback in year 3 with an organization should be completely locked into game plans, not managing public relations controversies about why the home crowd is displeased with his performance. Todd Monken found himself forced to address the hostile environment during his own press conferences, and his response was surprisingly candid. While Monken acknowledged that Watson had fought through 22 months of grueling injury rehabilitation to get back onto the field, He refused to place the blame on frustrated fans. Monken stated plainly that nobody likes getting booed, but he openly admitted that the team earned that negative reaction through mental errors, pre-snap penalties, and sloppy execution. His memorable remark about players needing to put their big boy pants on and earn respect through high-quality performance felt like a direct message to his veteran quarterback. It was an admission that fan loyalty cannot be demanded through a contract. It must be earned through execution. This disconnect between player and community creates an incredibly unstable foundation heading into the regular season. Quarterbacks thrive on confidence, rhythm, and the emotional energy of their home stadium. Taking the field knowing that a significant portion of your own fan base is waiting for you to fail creates immense psychological weight that affects decision-making in critical fourth-quarter situations. When every incomplete pass is met with groans and every sack prompts chance for the backup, the pocket collapses mentally long before it collapses physically. Watson is now walking a tightrope where every snap is magnified, and the bridge between him and the Cleveland faithful appears dangerously close to burning out completely. The skepticism surrounding the starting quarterback is not confined to passing charts and third-down conversion rates. It has expanded into a broader battle over personal credibility and community standing. Following a tense media availability, where Watson was directly asked about his efforts to rebuild his image and connect with local residents in Northeast Ohio, his answers once again generated intense debate across digital platforms. Watson responded somewhat vaguely, mentioning that he would have to check with the organization about specific plans, while reiterating that he has engaged in community service since his high school days in Georgia. Shortly after that interview circulated, social media accounts and fan forums began amplifying unverified reports and discussions regarding the financial transparency of the Deshaun Watson Foundation. Unverified figures circulating online claim that out of approximately $500,000 raised by the charitable entity in a previous year, only around $85,000 were reportedly distributed directly to community programs, with the remainder allegedly remaining within the organization's accounts. While these claims stem from viral social media threads rather than a verified independent financial audit, the speed with which the information spread illustrated a critical reality. The public is no longer willing to give the quarterback the benefit of the doubt on any topic. In professional sports, when an athlete is performing at an elite level and winning football games, fans and media outlets rarely scrutinize off-field philanthropic structures or minor interview missteps. Winning creates a protective shield that buffers players from outside noise. However, when on-field performance declines and a player carries unprecedented financial guarantees, every single aspect of their public persona comes under intense examination. The circulating foundation numbers, whether fully contextualized or not, became a symbol of fan frustration, reinforcing the perception of a massive divide between corporate public relations messaging and tangible community impact. This loss of public trust creates an environment where every statement is viewed with deep skepticism. When Watson speaks about team chemistry, personal motivation, or community connections, the response from a large portion of the audience is cynical. Sports business commentators pointed out that once an athlete's off-field credibility erodes to this extent, it becomes almost impossible to restore without sustained, championship-level success on the field. The Browns' front office finds itself managing a situation where their highest-profile employee is facing continuous reputational headwinds, complicating their marketing efforts and further alienating a traditional fan base that values authenticity, humility, and hard-nosed accountability above all else. The quarterback controversy did not develop in isolation. It represents the latest chapter in what has been one of the most turbulent off-seasons in recent Browns history. To truly appreciate why the pressure inside the building has reached critical mass, you have to examine the series of organizational challenges, roster transitions, and unexpected setbacks that have hit the franchise over the past several months. What was supposed to be a championship-caliber roster, ready to dominate a brutal division, has instead faced continuous instability across multiple key positions. The coaching staff experienced significant changes with the departure of key defensive assistants, forcing the team to re-establish schematic identity under a new defensive coordinator. Simultaneously, the locker room had to navigate persistent national trade rumors surrounding defensive superstar Myles Garrett, an elite talent whose future became a constant topic of sports talk radio debate. On the offensive side of the ball, newly acquired weapons like Jerry Jeudy struggled with consistency and recurring dropped passes during live camp periods, raising concerns about whether the passing attack had enough reliable targets to execute Monken's downfield system effectively. Injuries delivered another massive blow to the team's depth chart before the preseason even wrapped up. Key defensive contributors, including Alex Wright, suffered season-ending injuries that depleted the front seven's pass-rushing rotation, putting additional strain on the starters to play high snap counts. In free agency, the front office was publicly connected to several high-profile targets who ultimately chose to sign with competing AFC contenders, leaving noticeable holes along the offensive line and in the secondary. Each of these individual setbacks added another layer of stress to an organization that entered the year with virtually zero margin for error. When you assemble all of these pieces, you see a franchise operating under intense compounding pressure. The front office is desperate for stability, the coaching staff is fighting to establish its culture, and the locker room is trying to block out external distractions. In the middle of all this chaos sits the starting quarterback position, the most important role in all of professional sports. Instead of serving as a steadying anchor that lifts the rest of the roster out of the storm, the starting quarterback situation has become the epicenter of the team's problems. If the offense stumbles out of the gate in week 1, all of these underlying off-season issues will resurface at once, threatening to derail the season before it even reaches the midpoint. The drama unfolding in Cleveland has captured the attention of national analysts and sports writers across the country, many of whom are evaluating the situation with complete emotional detachment. Media outlets covering other AFC franchises, including writers in Houston who documented Watson's early career, have weighed in with sharp critiques of how the Browns have handled their quarterback hierarchy. A respected columnist covering the Texans pointed out the supreme irony of the situation. Shedeur Sanders was subjected to harsh pre-draft critiques and forced into a highly scrutinized training camp competition, only to outplay the veteran and still get relegated to the bench due to contract optics. Outside observers have noted that Watson has effectively compromised his standing with a fan base that was already running thin on patience. Writers with zero rooting interest in Cleveland's success have arrived at the exact same conclusion as the frustrated fans screaming outside the practice facility gates. From a pure football perspective, starting Sanders gives the Browns a modern athletic floor, cleaner operational timing, and a low-cost leader who has captured the respect of the locker room through sheer work ethic. National sports business reporters have bluntly described the depth chart as an unavoidable byproduct of financial commitments overruling on-field performance, highlighting a glaring flaw in modern sports team management. This outside consensus highlights an undeniable reality. The countdown toward a quarterback change is already ticking loudly. Todd Monken and the front office can hold the line through the opening weeks of the regular season, defending their decision with coach speak about veteran experience and scheme familiarity. However, the modern NFL schedule does not allow struggling offenses to hide. Facing ferocious defensive fronts in one of the toughest divisions in football, an indecisive quarterback who holds the ball too long will quickly find himself under relentless pressure. leading to turnovers, stalled drives, and mounting losses in the standings. Every single week Watson starts without producing elite results. The internal and external clamor for Shedeur Sanders will grow louder. The backup quarterback is always the most popular player on a struggling football team. But in Cleveland, that popularity is backed by legitimate tape, beat writer validation, and widespread public support. The coaching staff may have won the battle to start their high-priced veteran in Week 1, but they cannot escape the reality of the game itself. If the offense fails to deliver immediate, explosive results, the front office will be forced to make the move everyone outside that building saw coming months ago, turning the page to the Sanders era, whether they are financially ready for it or not. The Cleveland Browns stand at a historic crossroads where the business of football has directly collided with the truth of the gridiron. Deshaun Watson will take the field carrying the weight of a $240 million contract, an impatient locker room, and a skeptical fan base that feels its loyalty has been taken for granted. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders waits quietly in the wings, armed with undeniable film, sharp mechanics, and the undeniable reality that he outplayed the veteran when the lights came on. Front offices can manipulate depth charts, coach speak can obscure practice results, and guaranteed money can buy temporary job security. But between the white lines, performance is the only currency that truly matters. Here on Gridiron Ground, we break down the high-stakes decisions, the hidden financial motivations, and the hard-hitting football truths that mainstream corporate broadcasts are afraid to say out loud. If you respect real, unfiltered football analysis that puts the tape above the hype, do not let this story pass you by. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications so you never miss a single film breakdown or franchise-altering report. This quarterback controversy is about to explode across the national landscape, and Gridiron Ground is your primary home for every play, every benching, and every behind-the-scenes development all season long. Drop your final season record prediction for the Browns in the comments, and stay locked in for our next breakdown. If you're enjoying our Browns and Shedeur Sanders coverage, hit that subscribe button and be part of the journey. Let's build this community together.